You guys haven't been able to get the amount of offensive rebounds and loose balls that you were in the Cleveland series. Just what have they done, maybe to kind of beat you at your own game almost?
Maybe they wanted more. Maybe they wanted more.
Randle just 1 of 7 from the field. He has just 2 points. Garland and Mobley connect this time.
Julius Randle, widely known for being a notorious playoff dropper, statistically one of the worst in history. He's looked a bit different recently. How different, might you ask? Let's check the stats. Back in New York, Randle played in 2 playoff runs. Both were historically bad. The biggest indicators from the basic stats here are the terrible efficiency numbers and the negative assist-to-turnover ratio. With the way he's played with the Wolves so far, you'd think the world flipped upside down. Ignore the fact that he's not relied upon as much for rebounding. He's taken a massive leap in efficiency. And sure, this is a small sample, so those numbers could fall down a bit, but just by the eye test, you could tell this man is a new player this go-around. But to fully appreciate what he's doing this year, you gotta remember who he was in these regular seasons before playoff runs. Using 2023 as the Knicks sample, Randle went from an elite regular season player, all-star, all-NBA, to someone who was benched in crunch time in the playoffs. But with the Wolves this year, Randle was not seen as an elite regular season player. And now in the playoffs, at least through the first round, dare I say Julius Randle has been elite? This is where the video title comes from. Julius Randle this year, through his first batch of games, has actually been a playoff riser. That could never be said about him in any series prior. Look at the drastic difference in efficiency changes from the regular season to postseason. How does something like that happen? If you watched my video on Julius Randle last year, you'd know exactly how it happened. He turned out to be a face-up player who creates off the dribble, but I think he's maximized as an interior force. This bully ball play style in particular, though, seems much more sustainable for the playoffs. Perimeter shooting and defense is exactly what's needed to complement Julius. I don't think this is who Julius Randle is. I think it's a problem he just has. All that to say, I don't think we've truly seen yet who Julius Randle is in the playoffs. I'm going to be referencing that breakdown a lot here, so if you have the time, definitely go watch it. It's gotten a lot of good feedback. But anyways, in that video, I stressed heavily how Randle was transforming into a better playoff player due to the shift of his shot location throughout his career. That's perhaps the biggest reason for this playoff jump. Specifically, Randle used to rely on tough mid-range shots that nowadays is almost completely cut out of his shot diet. Looking at the numbers, in 2021, Randle took almost a third of his total shot attempts from the mid-range, most of those being contested if you're watching the games. He also took more shot attempts from 3 than he did within 10 feet of the basket. In 2023, his shot diet improved, largely thanks to Jalen Brunson handling more mid-range creation responsibility, but Randle still jacked up a bunch of threes. This year, though, Randle's shot diet is ultra efficient, cutting out middies and shooting a fair amount of threes for his skill set. What's most important here, though, is he's taking more than half of his shots right up close. Obviously, that's the most efficient spot on the floor, and with how big Julius is, you don't need to watch basketball to figure out how he'd be effective down there. Looking at some regular season film from this year, it is just so obvious to see that Julius is maximized in bully ball. And with Randle, he doesn't just bully smaller guys one-on-one. He's knocking the biggest dudes in the league off their spots. And sure, he could be prone to offensive fouling, but a lot of times he gets that clean contact with his shoulder and drives his defender underneath the rim. With how tough it is to defend him barreling down the lane, it gets even tougher when he mixes in his looks with some footwork and short jumpers. This is where Julius truly becomes unguardable, no matter how strong or tall the defender is. Notice how Randle is in full control here against Victor Wembanyama. Even with all that shot-blocking length, Julius removes him from the play time and time again. Now, Randle doesn't have the best touch around the rim. He needs some brute force to clear some space. But when Julius is in that low post and he can get to that fadeaway, there aren't many cleaner looking shots in the league. And aside from just the scoring aspect of bully ball, Julius has been grabbing grown man offensive rebounds. And he also uses his brute strength to clear the lane for playmaking opportunities. In every aspect, when Julius takes basketball to the weight room, there's no one who could hang with him. That's been evident in these playoffs.
Speaking of, Julius has got that dog, playoff mode engaged, and a whole lot of bark in him. Playoff mode!
But getting back to talking about the shift of his shot diet, it was always meant for Julius to play like this. Sure, he can get busy on the perimeter at times, but his base scoring production should always come at the rim. And with the Knicks, as shown by his shot diet with them, he wasn't finding that base production at the rim. So when his jump shot was off, he was off completely. I really harped on these shot diet changes in my previous breakdown, specifically that Julius Randle came into the league as a bully, someone who got almost all of his points at the rim. As his career progressed, he transformed into a shot creator, and it's just now that he's finding that marriage between the bully and the shot creator. Well, technically, he found that marriage last year. He was just unfortunately hurt for the playoffs. And trust me, if he was healthy, we would have seen efficient playoff production from him last year. In fact, that Knicks team could have challenged for a ring if they didn't have the injury bug, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, aside from the new and improved shot diet, another huge reason for Julius Randle's playoff success is his role within the Timberwolves roster. Just for comparison's sake, in 2021, the Knicks offense was completely Julius Randle perimeter-centric, and any ounce of their success was found in tough Randle jumpers or his perimeter creation for shooters. Considering his size, clumsiness, lack of ball security, whatever you want to call it, this obviously was bound to crumble when defenses hounded him in the playoffs. I love the 2021 Knicks, but their offense was respectfully pitiful. Randle was walking into a slaughter against any competent playoff defense. Aside from Derrick Rose here and there, no one else could relieve any sort of playmaking responsibility off Julius Randle that year. With the 2025 Wolves roster, though, Julius doesn't have to be involved with every action they have. Anthony Edwards relieves a ton of playmaking pressure off of Randle, and Mike Conley is also a steady veteran hand to initiate offense. And because the Wolves have those guys, including McDaniels and DiVincenzo, who can also create perimeter offense, Julius can be the most efficient version of himself, which is a powerful, skilled post player. Comparing his help this year to 2021 New York, Elfrid Payton is such a dog. I like him, but he's not relieving any pressure off Julius Randle. And Elfrid Payton was the Knicks' starting point guard that year. In all honesty, the Wolves' offensive construction isn't perfect for Julius. Rudy Gobert definitely mucks it up a bit, but with the shooters around him, it's a match made in heaven for Julius and his post play. The second he feels too much pressure, he could find an easy kick out. And that leads me into my third point of how Julius has improved his playoff performances. He's made serious strides as a passer throughout his career. The Julius Randle ball hog allegations are long outdated. In fact, I don't know how many better playmaking bigs there are in the league at this point. With Minnesota, he loves rifling passes to shooters out of the post and also kicking out once he gets the defense to shift with his rim pressure, both of which produce high-quality looks for his teammates. When it comes to facing pressure in double teams, Julius used to be a huge turnover guy, and he still has some rough ones here and there. But overall, he's become so much better at playmaking under pressure. Here's a TikTok breakdown I did years ago explaining this in detail. Back in the 2021 playoffs, the Hawks double-teamed Julius Randle every time he touched the ball in that series, and he performed very poorly because of it. He tried to either shoot or pass before the double team came, which resulted in a lot of bad decisions, but last night against the Pacers, Julius Randle was doubled almost every possession, and he was incredible making passes out of it. The keys to that success are patience and composure. You could see him surveying the court, looking for that open man that the double created. So on this play, instead of trying to get to his spot for a jumper, he sees Halliburton hedging over. He's going to attack and draw him out of the play, which means there's 3 shooters on the other side of the court. One's going to be open. He ended this game with more rebounds than points. He only had 14 points, but he did take advantage of the one-on-one matchups that were proper to take advantage of. His game was not perfect by any means. He had a couple tough turnovers, but the approach is completely different. 2 years ago, Julius Randle is definitely trying to force that into RJ Barrett, but he waits for Brunson to come around. That's a much cleaner look. He's much more complete in scanning the floor, which leads to so many more open looks for his teammates. He's a pretty good passer. I thought this was easily his best find of the night. You're going to see his eyes scan towards RJ at the top at first, but he finds Mitch wide open under the rim. With the Knicks looking at a playoff spot this year, I'm miles more confident with this version of Julius Randle than 2021. Now, I didn't shoot 100% here. Obviously, Julius was still very perimeter reliant in 2023, so he struggled in those playoffs. Although, he also struggled because he had a bad ankle that was surgically repaired that summer. That's neither here nor there, just saying. But in the breakdown, you can see that growth in passing and composure that he had, and you could see it even more so with the Wolves this year. Getting into the last key as to how Julius has done so well this postseason, it has to be his effort and energy. Historically, Julius has had some crazy low-light clips of him missing defensive assignments, walking down the court in transition, and other inexcusable deeds for a basketball player. But this postseason, we've seen Julius dialed in on defense. He's been getting his nose in there for offensive rebounds, and he's really providing energy for a Wolves team that thrives on energy. I'm sure it's helped him to be surrounded by such great defenders, but whatever the cause is for his defense, he looks like a different guy. And credit to him, Julius has had to exercise some serious playoff demons from the previous years, and besides a 7-turnover game in Game 1 against LA, it's been real smooth sailing ever since. 2025 Randle isn't perfect, of course. I think a notable weakness of his is sometimes he passes too much and doesn't exploit obvious mismatches. He can also still fall asleep on D from time to time and get out of control in trying to break someone down off the dribble. But overall, this man Julius Randle is balling. I could not be happier for him. He's gotten some of the worst media attention I've ever seen back in New York, not to mention there was never any context applied to his last playoff performances. But now he's healthy, he's got a squad around him, and he's got years ahead of him to play some high-quality basketball. He might not make an all-star team again, but honestly, that's a minor feat compared to what he's just done. And what he just did was gain the world's respect. Shoutouts to Julius Randle, man.